Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome to another recorded review. It is currently 2 in the morning, and I had to get this review finished off because I do have 2 days away from tomorrow onwards, and I needed to get this done. Daymare 1994 Sandcastle, which is the second game in the series of the Daymare games. I played the very first one, Daymare 1998. We did a full playthrough, we did a recording, and uploaded that review to YouTube. So if you want to check that out beforehand, please feel free. I was massively excited for Daymare 1994. I reached out. I tried so hard to reach out and get a review code so I could get it early on day one without no luck. And it really sucks because I really wanted to jump onto this. So we ended up buying it. We ended up buying it with a massive page of notes to work through itself and our usual review template. We will break this game down in the exact same way as we do with every other review, spoiler free of course, so you guys won't miss out on any of the awesome stuff if you end up playing this game. So let's crack on. I'm gonna go through the template as I usually do, and then add the notes that I've written down into said template as well. I might repeat myself on a few occasions, and again, it's 2 in the morning, I'm tired, so please bear with me. The very first thing that we always look into in any of our reviews is the choice of music use, the soundtrack. I find the soundtrack to be one of the most important aspects of most video games out there, because with it, it adds dynamic to the game, it adds emotion, and with emotion you get feelings and sense of joy, happiness, and sadness, and I think it controls a lot in a video game. So if we're looking at just the audio aspect of this, I loved it. I absolutely freaking loved the game. I did have to turn it down because it was blowing my eardrums when I first booted the game. The music that they utilize in an ambient sense and also in the cinematic sense with the cutscenes that they utilize, it was fantastic and it worked. It all fit the game very well. It was not out of place. We heard no audio stutters or any of the audio cutting out, any audio issues. They weren't there with the music in the game. So that aspect, I was absolutely blown away with it. It worked very well in a game, and I loved it. If we're looking at the effects, this includes pretty much everything within the game: footsteps, explosions, gun sounds, anything that can make a form of audio. We didn't encounter, again, any issues throughout the actual playthrough that we did. We did 2 big streams and probably about 13-ish hours, 12 to 13 hours of gameplay itself. The gun noises in this game are super satisfying. And the sound effects that they use with the items that you're using, as in unlocking doors, key locks, metal locks, and stuff like that. Oh god, it sounded perfect. So from that perspective as well, I can't fault the game in any way. I didn't hear any. The gun noise for me are a must. The guns need to sound realistic. They need to sound like they have a kick to it. And not some sort of freaking BB gun or a pea shooter or a paint gun, because we've done reviews on games where the gun sounds were absolutely terrible. This wasn't the case for Daymare 1994. Just from that aspect though. If we're looking at the voice acting, this is where the game slightly falls. I didn't find the voice acting to be 100% convincing at times, yet the game carries a massive amount of emotions throughout the start all the way through it. There were a lot of cutscenes where the doll-like expressions on the characters, the facial animations as well, that didn't really fit and didn't showcase the emotion throughout the game. It was the biggest gripe for me. It really was. And yes, I understand this game is definitely made by a much smaller team than most games itself. This isn't AAA in any way. This isn't a massive group of departments and stuff like that. But the facial animations, the mouths that weren't in sync with the English dialogue, and the music was trying so hard to feed us the raw emotion that the scenes were delivering, but the characters weren't convincing and weren't portraying that emotion. They were very stiff and very it's just, it's upsetting, but at the same time, you know, it's not a massive team behind the game. But they could have done better. They could have done a bit more work in the facial animation aspect of the game, and really added the emotion in the characters' design itself. And that's just something that was a little bit slacking for me, in my honest opinion. Graphics, texturing, and weather effects. Graphics, it's not on how the game looks itself. I don't care if this looks like a retro game. I really don't. Or looking like the next Cyberpunk game or Crisis game. It doesn't really bother me at all. It's whether or not the graphic engine that they utilized worked correctly and didn't cause problems throughout the game. One thing I definitely noticed, because you can run this game in both performance mode and quality mode, which is basically frames per second over graphics enhancements and quality, is when we ran the game in quality mode, the game stuttered quite a bit. There was quite a lot of frame drops going on throughout the game. So we turned that off and put it onto frames per second only. And there were still some areas in the game that suffered massively from frame drops. And I don't know. I'm running an Xbox Series X, the best console that I could possibly run this on without going through PC. And I don't expect frame drops in games. I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. Especially with a game that's not visually, you know, mind-blowing as other titles that are out there. That could be down to just their graphic engine not being able to render it correctly or render it at full speed. I don't know. But if I trigger a game to run in FPS mode, I expect the game to run at the highest FPS at all times. Because you're downgrading the quality of the game to make the game run faster and smoother. Even in the inventory section, while we were examining items and turning them around, you could actually see the items stuttering as it went around. And it's just, I don't know if that's something that they can easily just polish out, or maybe roll down a graphics patch or something like that. But if they could fix that, that would be great. It didn't cause problems throughout the game. It didn't cause, you know, the game to crash in any way. We actually, surprise, fucking hell, we didn't have a game crash with this game. We didn't get dashboarded to the Xbox home screen and shit like that. No, the game actually ran from start to finish without crashing. Fucking surprise, right? In this day and age, you do expect the game to kind of crash. You do expect there to be problems, but nope, we were absolutely good. Weather effects, there was only a few areas that utilized a weather effect in some way. Rain, thunder, especially right at the very beginning itself. It sounded so good, and it did send a couple of awesome chills up my spine. But the weather effects that they did utilize looked great, sounded great, performed well, and I was absolutely happy with it. One thing I will touch up on with the graphics engine that they used, there was a lot of slow loading textures that you could see in the game itself. You could also see them more visibly through cutscenes, where you see the object in the field of view load in a way itself. And again, if the game is running on FPS mode, that should never be a problem. That should not ever be a problem. If you're running it in the highest quality possible, then maybe, but that's still to see. I'm not gonna lie. We had a few clothing texture issues where the skin was coming through the shirt. Not a big deal for me. Not really a massive deal. Again, something that could easily be polished out, to be fair. But overall, when it comes down to the character model designs, they were very doll-like, and I wasn't massively happy with how some of the characters looked. The main character that you utilize, her voice, I just, for me, it didn't work. And this isn't me attacking the voice actress in any way. The voice it was kind of off for me. And I've played a massive amount of horror games in this style, the Resident Evil series, Silent Hill games, and more and more and more. And it is crucial to find the right voice actor and actresses for the roles of characters, because again, it makes it all believable. It makes it all, it just adds to the flavor of the game, like the spice of the game in some ways. And when I looked at the concept art, because they have a gallery mode in the game, which is absolutely great, where you actually see concept art of the designs of the characters. The artwork for the main character looked far better than the actual character did in the game, which is so weird. It's just like, there's your concept right there. All you need to do now is make that model in the game and make her look exactly like your concept art, and it didn't. It was weird. But this was just more of a personal thing to me. It may gripe you when you play the game, but again, this is just me. The monster designs look pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, they weren't out of this world. They were they were good. They were above normal. The reason I'm very hesitant with this one is because there is a lack of monsters in the game, like a massive lack. You fight the same creatures pretty much throughout the entire game. You get introduced to a few new ones as you're playing through it, but you're ending up fighting pretty much the same, and with the whole concept, with the way that the story plays out, they could have put more imagination into it, and they did. Some of the monsters, the monsters that are introduced later on, they do look cool. They look very Dead Space like, which is really awesome. But they don't go further. It's just like, the more enemies that they could have chucked in, the more enemy variations that they could have chucked in, the less repetitive the game would have been for the player. So they would keep going. Don't get me wrong, I played this game from start to finish in 2 days, and I absolutely loved it. But I just feel that adding more enemies into the game adds to the variation, which means you won't get bored as fast. If you catch me. Again, that's just me though. Some people may play this game from start to finish and think, yeah, that was perfect. They didn't need to add any more monsters. But with how the story plays out, they could have added more monsters and been way more creative with them as well. They really could have. They could have expanded on the range of monsters, in my opinion. Glitches and bugs. We didn't really encounter anything that was attention grabbing. A few textures here and there, but there was nothing in the game that was breaking. And I think that's probably down to how well polished this game is. As again, it's a small team, but we had no real issues in the game. We've had enemies glitching in walls in some games, enemies disappearing in other games, but we didn't experience that in this game. We didn't. It was fine, and I'll give them a high five. To be fair, I think it was definitely well polished in that respect. Well, they could have done a bit more. They could have. Well, depending if they could have pushed their graphics engine into the next step, or maybe look for a more improved graphic engine, I don't know. But overall, glitches and bugs, I can't really add to that. And usually I have a list. Usually I have a really big list. Any game customization and stats building. First of all, stats building, there is none. It is not a RPG. It isn't a roleplay game where you increase your health, your stamina, your defense, your endurance, and all that crap. It's not like Dark Souls. It plays out very, very, very similarly to like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, third-person camera behind the avatar, and what you can do in terms of stats building, I wouldn't really call it that, but more of equipment upgrading, is the pack that you get put on your back, which allows you to do a lot of awesome freeze effects with enemies itself. You can upgrade that by finding upgrade stations, and you can also find weapon upgrade units that are hidden in locker rooms, which can help upgrade your weapons. Now, they don't really go above and beyond around this. When you upgrade your backpack, the Hades cryo unit, there is no cutscene, there's no special wicked animation. You just click a button and bang, you get the upgrade. And that, to me, is a massive missed opportunity there, because you could have easily added a cutscene where she unstrapped her backpack, she stuck it into the actual unit, the claws came down, done the little tweaks, done the little upgrades, and it could have made it an exciting and special thing to watch, but you get none of that. It's just, oh, you found an upgrade station. Which upgrade would you want? Boop, done. There you go. You got the upgrade. And that there is a bit lazy. If you want my opinion, that was lazy. You could have added a cutscene with the upgrades. It would have just added to it, in my opinion. As I said, the gameplay is extremely similar to old school Resident Evil 4, again Resident Evil 5. I wouldn't class that as retro yet, but it's definitely heading that way. They don't utilize the same reloading mechanic that they used in Daymare 1998, which was you picked up the empty clips, you manually filled them up, and then you manually reloaded your gun, and any clip that you dropped, you kind of had to pick back up again and refill it. It was so super realistic in that respect that it actually pushed some people away from playing it, because it was too real and it caused problems in combat because they were panicking reloading their gun and everything. But to be fair, I absolutely loved that in that game. It was very, very unique. They don't do that in this game. It's completely void from it. It's a pretty much, you find ammo, you reload your gun. It's just as simple as that. But I do have to say there is a big lack in weaponry in the game. You start off the game and you go straight to the armory, you pick up your main weapon and your secondary weapon, and that's it. Throughout the entire game, you never ever find any more weapons. And one of the biggest killers for me, being a massive handgun lover, you don't start off with a basic sidearm at all. Even though in the game there are handguns presented in the armory, and throughout the game you find them and you can't use one, and that kind of sucks to me. A handgun should always be the last resort type weapon. When you've run out of shotgun shells, when you've run out of SMG bullets, you pull out your sidearm, you pray to God, and you shoot. But you don't get any of that. You don't get any additional weapons. No assault rifles, no rocket launchers. The only two weapons are basically the SMG and the shotgun. That's it throughout the whole game. And I'm sorry, but that to me isn't enough, because I would have loved to have listened to what their handguns would have sounded like in this game. It probably would have sounded orgasmic, but nope. Replayability and game difficulty. There are 4 difficulty modes in this game itself. You've got the story mode, which is basically the story ran on easy mode. You've then got normal, hardcore, and then what they call Hades, which is probably their super hardcore, super hard, yada yada yada. As with all reviews, we always run through the game on normal mode so we can see if the normal difficulty is good for normal, that it's not too easy and not too hard. I'll be completely honest with you, I found normal mode very easy. I ended up having way too much healing, way too many cryo refills. Bullets were a little bit on the lacking side here and there, but if you can master your freeze abilities, you can actually kill enemies without burning ammunition, so you can start farming them. So, train of thought gone. I would say don't play it on story. You don't need to. Do not play it on story. Play it on normal difficulty and above, and I think you'll be absolutely fine. If you feel, big dick energy and you think that you'll be absolutely, MLG first time playing it, then yeah, maybe go straight to hardcore. Maybe. But your choice. I just found it a breezy adventure all the way through. The end boss gave me a few problems because I didn't know what exactly the game wanted me to do. But when I figured it out, we got it done and it was game over pretty much. So I'd say normal mode and you'll be golden. In terms of replayability, there is replayability in this game because you can unlock certain features and certain extras in the game itself by playing on a harder difficulty, by also playing it at a faster speed. You get graded in this game like you do with old school Resi games, where you get graded on your deaths and your time, is what we saw. I think I was a B grade on my very, very first run with 9+ hours of in-game content. I don't know if it added the cutscenes onto that, but I know we streamed for 2 big streams longer than that in-game timer. Replayability is definitely there because there are collectibles to find throughout the game itself. There are really cool alien bobbleheads that do make a noise. So if you've got good hearing, you'll actually notice where all of them are. We found every single one of them but one. And then we went back into the game and we found it instantly. We just listened out for the noise. We knew what we were looking for and we found a little bugger hiding in a corner. Those little alien bobbleheads convert into coins, and those coins reference either an 80s or a 90s retro movie game, or it's just really cool what they've done there. There are a lot of documents that you can find that you can also read, which is also tied into an achievement to find them all. There are audio tapes, there are scannable items that you can retrieve more data from. Which again tie into even more achievements. If you're an achievement hunter, this game is definitely for you, 100%. We did a 21 out of 30 achievement on our first playthrough, and we could easily get the rest. We could definitely easily get the rest by just playing the game on the harder difficulties and running it through. It's as simple as that. But once you've done all of that, to be fair, you won't have anything else to do unless they bring out any DLC, or if they bring out well, that's it really, any DLC, any further content throughout the game that you can play. You're looking, if you manage to do 2 or 3 runs, you're looking at 20, 30 hours, and then once you've done it all, you're done. But for the price that they're charging, I was absolutely happy with what I experienced throughout the game. Again, just me. Story, if applicable, this story was fucking awesome. It had a great idea, it had a great concept to it, and it really worked very well, and it kept me hooked from start to finish. That's all I'm gonna say about it. If you want to experience it yourself, play the game, or watch a guide, or watch one of my recordings on Kick of me playing the actual game itself. But the story itself I found really enjoyable, and the most important part of the story is it kept me hooked. It kept me going throughout the game. I wanted to keep playing it. If a story can't keep you interested or even hooked, you're not going to bother playing the game. You're going to get bored very quickly, and that is a massive shame. It really is. Online co-op modes, features, and stability. There is no online co-op. There is no multiplayer. There is no, I can't talk about features and stability because there's no servers to connect to. It is just a single player offline experience. What you're seeing is Pretzel Rock's Pango Wolf, which is the music player that's playing. You're seeing the songs being posted in my Twitch chat. Purchase price versus digital price and value of content. We was able to pick this game up for under £30, and we grabbed the digital edition because I wanted to crack on with the review. The physical edition of the game would have been £2 more, so you're looking at around £32. And Today we actually saw selling for 54. They're doing a collector's edition, which I think is pretty neat, and it's only £54. I didn't look to see what was in the collector's edition, but there is a PlayStation 5 collector's edition of this game out there if you want to grab it. Microtransactions in any DLC? We don't know about DLC just yet. I didn't see any myself when I looked at the Xbox store. But microtransactions, there are none. There aren't any cosmetics for the character, but there are some cosmetics that you can earn in the game that can transform the skin of your gun. It doesn't really do anything other than just transform the look of the weapon itself. But they probably could have done character skins, to be fair, with the main character that you're using, and even more weapon skins with hopefully more weapons in general. I guess they could have done that as either unlockables or even, you know, DLC, paid DLC if they wanted to do that. But yeah, that'll be up to them in the future. Any additional notes? That's where we pretty much go through everything that we've written down. This will add extra content to the subjects we've already talked about and give you a little bit more of what we experienced hand in hand. The size of the game is only 27 gig. It is not a large boy at all. You'll easily be able to squeeze that onto any console and have no problem with it. The publishers are Invader Studios. The game is listed as an action adventure. I would definitely add in that is a horror as well. There are plenty of jump scares throughout the game itself. One thing I did find though is that they were really relying on one particular jump scare way too often in the game, and I'm talking nearly double digits, that they use the same type of jump scare over and over and over again. I'm not going to mention it because that would be a big spoiler itself and will kind of ruin the experience. But if you do end up playing this game, you will see it yourself. They rely on the same type of jump scare all the time. And that's a big shame, because they could have looked at other areas of the game to add jump scares if that's what they were looking for, and mix the variety up so the player doesn't know. It got to a point where I was figuring out where the jump scares were, and I was checking my corners all the time, and I could just see it coming from a mile away. And that weakens the horror aspect, which is not what I think they wanted to actually do. I think they wanted to keep the game to be a jumpy horror game. There are challenges that you can do throughout the game itself through methods of killing enemies and through your collections, which add to the actual game itself. The gallery mode, which we already spoke about, and even the bobblehead collectibles, again, which we've already spoken about. The consoles that this came out on: Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and Windows. So everyone gets to experience this bad boy, which is pretty cool. It is a PEGI 18 as well. We've already talked about the difficulty. The enemies do drop a variety of loot to help you as well. So if you're struggling, hopefully the game's RNG system will drop some ammo for you. Massive frame drops while inspecting items. I've already talked about that one. No upgrade cinematic on your cryo backpack. We've already spoken about that one itself. The running, this is one of the big killers. The running speed. It's fucking terrible. I don't understand why your character doesn't react in the realistic sense that if they're being chased down by a freak of a monster that wants to kill them, that they are skipping away from the enemy like they're in some Springer cartoon show and they're not bothered. This is a massive killer for me. A really, really, really big killer for me, because it does there's no realistic reaction from your character. She's just running at the exact same pace the whole freaking time. And I don't like the running animation, and I really, really don't like the fact that I can't run away efficiently away from monsters so I can get some good distance before I can turn around and blow their brains out. It's just no. You could have maybe added a additional sprint feature in the game itself, so you could have her casual jog like she's just running around, but please fix the animation because it looks horrible as it is. But you could have also given her some form of a stamina burst function to allow her to run faster away from enemies, but then you can stop them from overusing it by putting a stamina bar in play so they can't always run that way. That fixes both of those problems straight off the bat and gives the player that extra time to turn around and blow the enemy's brains out, as I said. There are weapon upgrades available for the 2 guns that you can find. They are, again, hidden throughout the game, so good luck trying to find those. We do have to talk about the mini games that are in this game. They are freaking awesome. They are so cool. They are not difficult, to be completely honest. The very hard crackable lockers are probably the only hard encounter that you'll ever have. But the mini games in this game were fun. They were very they caught my attention. It worked very well, and I liked them a lot. No ability to inventory manage. This should be a no-brainer. You do end up having a storage bag itself because you could, you fill up all your squares with your inventory, but you've got no way of organizing it or sorting it manually. And what's really annoying is the key item that you end up using the most usually ends up on the bottom right of the bag, which means you have to manually go down to it every single time. When if I had the efficiency, I would put the key item in the top left square, so the second I went into my bag, it's the first thing I click on. If you could patch that in real quick, that would be freaking awesome. because it's annoying. It really is, to go through the bag to the bottom just to find an item that you need to use, and this is probably just an OTT thing of mine and my OCD kicking in, but it's time management and it's also just efficiency as well. It would have worked better for me, in my opinion. The TV and movie show references are just like the first game. There are loads, and I mean loads of them. Good luck finding them. I loved locating the majority that we found. It was such a great flashback. I was able to loot through a container, so that was definitely a bug. We ended up getting a shotgun upgrade for free without having to actually open up the container. That was absolutely lovely. The lip sync doesn't match the English dialogue. We already talked about that when we talked about the animations with the character itself. The scanner isn't used for a lot of interesting items. This is one thing that kind of bugged me. You only scan a few items throughout the game itself just to recover data, but you don't ever scan anything else, when the scanner could have been utilized in a way where you scan the bodies, where you could scan the enemies and gather more intel, more data, which could maybe help increase your damage against them, your knowledge against them. I just think it could have been utilized in a better way. I mean, BioShock did that with the camera. You take photos of the enemy, and the more data that you've got on that enemy, it increases your damage on them, your loot on them. I think that would have been a really cool aspect with the hand scanner. It would have utilized it a little bit better in the game, in my opinion. Key sounds are amazing. Already talked about that. I'm not going to talk about that because that is a spoiler, so nope. A chapter select mode after story completion. This would really help people to go back through certain levels and find the remaining of the collectibles that they couldn't find without forcing them to replay the game all over again. But that's just me. But to be fair, it kind of makes sense. It does kind of make sense. You could save after every single chapter, and then you'd have a massive list of save files. But that just seems a bit messy. Where if you give the player the choice to go back to any level that they've played before, you give them the chance to find those collectibles, which would greatly increase their collection and hopefully pop the achievements that they want. That's it. That's pretty much everything that I've written down. So what it boils down to now is, would I recommend this game, and what would I grade it? Would I recommend this game? Hell yes. This game was a blast to play. I enjoyed the first game. I've enjoyed this game a lot. This game is fantastic to play. I have to congratulate the team behind it. I really do. I think they've done an absolutely cracking job on this game from start to finish. There is just a lot more that they could do to add more content and more depth to the game, and hopefully some more raw emotion, because that to me is a game stealer right there. That would make me buy the game if I can see raw emotion in said game. But you know, it is what it is. So yes, I would 100% recommend this game. What would I grade it though? That's another question. Looking at all the things that we've talked about, the game could do with a bit more polishing. The game could do with a few more extras as well. And it felt to me like they made a game and played it safe. And that's good in some respect, but also, you know, could have been a bit more risky, and pushed a bit more content into the game itself, a bit more variety and a bit more depth, in my opinion. So if I was to rate this out of 10, I would be happy scoring this a very easy 8 out of 10. I would definitely recommend picking this game up, especially if it goes on sale as well. And if you haven't done so already, play the first game too, because they're both fantastic games, and I like to see developers and publishers getting more recognition and more praise for the quality of their games, especially when they put their heart and soul into it. I really do look forward to seeing what their next project is and whether or not they do continue the Daymare series, and I can't wait. So from me to you, I appreciate everything that you guys do for me. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoy this review. It's a bit of a long one, I know. I'll get it uploaded as soon as I can to YouTube. Again, we're on Kick. If you guys want to come hang out with us, my link will be in the chat, in the video description on YouTube, where this video is going to go. All the links will be there available for you to click on. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you wouldn't mind commenting, that would be awesome. Share it with anyone that you feel that might enjoy a spoiler-free ish review on the game. And I will see you guys on the next review. Take care, be safe, bye bye.